ground an exploration in the structure. And I think that is this this idea or this principle is very strong in BMC, which is it's kind of like a psychophysical approach, but it starts from the structure and from the movement. So that's why we spend so much time with details, like what are the parts of the pelvis? How do I move this part of the pelvis? And how do I mm, embody just one of the quadrants of the pelvic floor and how I relate that to another quadrant and all these very particular details also in the embryological development. There's so many details that sometimes we cannot follow really anymore because we try to grasp it intellectually, but then it can freak us out very easily because we cannot hold all this information at once. But then when we start to take, or we can take a detail and then take time to explore that, and then we take another detail and we add another detail, we layer, it's easier to embody it. And so I was thinking maybe we start from the pelvis, from the bony pelvis, and as an as we're saying, we're not talking about a pelvic half, but the right side of the pelvis and the left side of the pelvis um, are two independent bones which have independence in movement, even though sometimes for some people, for many people, maybe there is no movement. The pelvis is a block. But what we can explore is how we can find more independence of actually these three bones, the right side of the pelvis, the left side of the pelvis, and the sacrum. So how can these three structures relate to each other so they can inform the movement and can be informed by the movement. So if you're sitting right now, maybe you want to sit a little bit on the edge of the chair, so you not leaning back, but you can sit in a way where you can move your upper body forward and backwards without touching the back of the chair. You can move it right and left. So you have some kind of liberty in the movement of your body. And as you move, you feel you can feel your sit bones as a point of orientation, as a reference point, maybe the most important reference point in that case, that you can sit on the ischial tuberosities, the sit bones, and then when you move your body forward, the weight is in front of the sit bones, and then you move your body backwards, and then the weight is behind the sit bones, and maybe trying not to change anything between the spine and the pelvis. So as you move your body forward, also your pelvis is moving forward. So you move the pelvis and the spine is one unit, back and forth. So your lumbar spine stays completely relaxed, calm. So you're not increasing the curve of your lumbar spine or changing anything there. But so actually the most of the movement is happening in the hip joints. You're kind of rolling the hip joints forward and back. And so you become aware of that structure of the pelvis, which you might have an image or might not have an image, but it's grounded through the sit bones. And then maybe if you move your weight a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, so through this movement and through feeling where is the weight and where do I put the weight, you get an embodied image of the structure, because the structure is supporting your weight. You are not collapsing. And then as a third dimension, if you're sitting, you move one knee forward. You move one knee forward and then back, and then the other knee forward and back. And so you're alternating, and that introduces a rotation in your pelvis. And so it's a question, where do you feel that rotation? This movement requires that the two parts of the pelvis are moving independently, while you can feel your pelvis also on the iliac crests, which are here the upper front part of the pelvis. If you think about or feel these two parts of your pelvis, the upper front part, and then you move one knee forward while the other knee moves back. Also, the one side of the pelvis is moving forward while the other side of the pelvis is moving back. So you have an opposite movement of the two sides of the pelvis. So the side of the pelvis moves forward with the knee. And then and with that, there is movement at the joint between the pelvis and the sacrum. And you can notice, what is your spine doing? Is your spine staying more or less calm? Or is your spine moving with your legs and your pelvic bones? And with this, going there with your attention and with the question, how do I know what is moving? How do I notice that the right pelvic bone is moving forward while the left pelvic bone is moving backwards? How do I know that my weight is more on the left pelvic bone or more on the right pelvic bone? How do I know that my weight is more in the front or more in the back? What are the sensations which produce that certainty? And then, if you like, you can add to that the muscular structure on the pelvic floor. So now we have already as a reference the sits bones, and we have as a reference the sacrum, which is then continuing with the coccyx. So the end of the tail, the tip of the tail. And in the front, we have the pubic bone. So which is the place where the two pelvic bones meet in the front and where there is a joint and a possibility of articulation. So also that moving a knee forward and backward is making a lot of movement at the pubic symphysis. And between these 4 points, between the pubic in the front, the coccyx in the back, and the two sit bones, is like a tent, is like a dome of muscles, which is called the pelvic floor. And in the center of that, like a cross between the sit bones and pubic and coccyx, is what's called the central tendon or the perineal body. And that's a very, very important point, not only for the muscular organization, but also for the embryological origin, because this is the point where the mesoderm develops and where the notochord starts with the primitive streak moving up, and then the notochord descending down back to the later perineum and moving up all the way to the pituitary gland, so that it's a very, very early, very early development, which already establishes that connection between the top and the bottom. Now that's what we want to have in mind to explore what is the relationship between the bottom of the pelvis, the pelvic pit, and the top, the brain, and the cerebellum, the cortex. Not the cerebellum, the cortex. So already with the establishing of that embryological structure called the notochord, which later will become the center of the vertebral discs, is an orientation established from up and down, which is then guiding in the back the neural tube, and in the front the primitive gut. So you have these three structures, vertical structures, very early developed with the yellow, the primitive gut in the front, and the blue, the notochord in the back, the neural tube in the back, and the red, the notochord in the middle. And the notochord is in the middle is a point of orientation for all other structures to develop and give some kind of elasticity to the spine. Between the perineum and the pituitary. So we can play a little bit with the relationship between the center of the head and the center of the pelvic floor. And on the pelvic floor, the 4 quadrants, which are constituted by these reference points, the 2 sit bones, on the sides, pubic in the front, and the coccyx in the back. taking a few moments, maybe if you want to bring these 2 points, the head and the center of the pelvic floor, closer together and further apart, maybe rotating together or in different directions, maybe side bending, just to say that to have freedom in relationship of these points. In articulating the head and the pelvis in a soft and connected way. And you can also change your position. You don't need to be sitting. You can be also laying down or leaning to back into the chair or the sofa or any position which is comfortable for you. So now, as you have that established these relationships, you can also start from moving your legs, like laying down and just with the legs bent or one leg bent to move the knee to one side or to the other side, or one leg stretched, other bent, and rolling to the side. So to explore in some ways how the bottom, the pelvic structures are related to the head movements. And in that case, through the notochord, the soft connection, and the digestive tube in the front, embryologically the primitive gut, um, which develops from the internalization of the yolk sac, and the neural tube in the back, which gives rise to the neural canal, to the peripheral nervous system, and to the outer layer of the skin. And these three vertical structures, how they articulate with each other: the primitive gut in the front, the notochord in the middle, and the neural tube in the back. And maybe if you like, you can also imagine the support still from the amniotic sac in the back and from the yolk sac in the front, for those who have explored that before, but just to bring it up as a support in the front and a support in the back. And how the head and the pelvis come in closer together, further apart, in three-dimensional movement. And as you continue moving in that way, where you explore the connection between the head and the pelvis, you can also bring your attention for a moment to what is actually filling the pelvis. What is in this pelvic cavity? What is there inside, which is kind of held by the pelvic floor and contained by the abdominal organs? There is the bladder, and there is uterus, the prostate. There's the rectum. So we have these places more or less defined. So the rectum is more in the back. So it's closer to the coccyx. And the bladder is more in the front, connected to the ureter, urethra, and the urethra to the penis. So the rectum and the anus in the back, and the bladder and the urethra in the front. And in the middle is the perineal body, and in front of the perineal body, between the root of the penis and the perineal body, or for the women, between the urethra and the perineal body, is the vagina, and the vagina connecting to the uterus. So you have in this moving forward and moving backward, you have also the relationship in the pelvic organs, more in the front the bladder, in the middle vagina and uterus, in the back the rectum and anus. And how do these organs relate to the head in this movement? And if you want to, if you like to go more again onto the top of the neural tube, what we call the brain is a big part, is directly underneath the skull, is the cortex. It has developed quite a bit, and lower down is where the ventricles are, the fluid-filled space, which is coming from the central canal of the neural tube, where the CSF is circulating. There is a limit between the ventricles and the cortex, which is called the lamina terminalis, which is the limit of the neural tube, and then the cortex is developing beyond this limit to the front and to the top and a little bit to the back, to these different parts of the cortex. While on the other end, down, the neural tube is not reaching all the way down to the coccyx, but actually it ends already in the beginning of the lumbar spine, and then it continues in the cauda equina and going into the filum terminale, which is developing from the bottom up. It's not a developing down, but it's developing from the bottom up. So it grounds the nervous system, the neural tube, in the pelvic pit. So how do you it's like it was said, the plants always grow up and down in the same time. So the roots, which are often invisible, the roots is like the cauda equina. It looks like the nerves outside of the neural canal are reaching down and reaching into the legs, while the neural tube is growing up, and then on top, it's the same phenomenon, is that the cortex is growing beyond the neural tube. And so you have um, these two poles even more accentuated, the cortex on the top and the filum terminale on the bottom, and other structures like parts of the rectum, parts of the vagina, parts of the penis. They're all developed from the periphery, from the bottom, to meet structures from the top. And so you have these two poles even more accentuated through these structures which go beyond the neural tube and beyond the original embryonic disc on the top and on the bottom. So again, how do you be very concrete with your sensations? How do you ground your imaginary in the sensations? So it's not just an image somewhere floating around, but you can relate that image to a particular structure in your body and to a particular sensation which is produced also by the movement. So if I'm have the image of my left side, all the cells of the left side weighing down into my left leg or into my left pelvic bone. This image is accompanied by sensations of weight, of maybe a release of weight on my left side, increasing the sensation of the contact with the left leg or with the left sit bone or with the when I'm laying down with my whole left side. It goes with an increased sensation on that side, a sensation which is produced by weight. It's produced or coming from the joints, from the muscles, from the nerve endings in the tissues. And when I shift my weight to the right side, maybe my left side starts to feel light while my right side feels uh, more heavy. Or when I shift my weight forward or shift my weight backward, these movements are accompanied by particular sensations and by particular images. In the front, I can connect more maybe to the weight of my organs, also the digestive organs, the heart and the lungs. In the back, maybe if I shift my weight back, maybe I connect more to my kidneys, to the three pairs of kidneys in the neck, in the thorax, and in the upper abdomen, and how that connects into the bladder and into other structures, especially the reproductive organs. So any images you have, how can they be connected to how you feel or what you feel? And then again, take some time to choose from all this menu what emerges for you in that moment you would like to explore a little bit more in that relation of the pelvis, pelvic pit, of the pelvic organs to the head, to the cortex, to the brain, with the support of the front, the digestive tract, and the back, and the middle, the spine, and the notochord. How do you, what emerges for you in this moment? And take the time which you need to bring this process to a momentary, maybe completion by continue to move, explore, or to rest, or to write, or to draw, or any other way you feel like it helps you to complete this process.